Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back. Today's story is one that sits in a very deep, very tender place in my heart. It's a story about the silent sacrifices of a mother, the trust she placed in her children, and the devastating moment that trust was used as a weapon against her. It's a story that asks, how far can you stretch a parent's love before it finally, heartbreakingly, snaps? If this story touches a nerve, if it makes you think of the sacrifices your own parents made, please let me know. Press that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support tells me that these stories of the human heart are worth telling. It helps this community grow. Now, settle in. This is the story of how a son used his mother's pension for a down payment and what they did next that broke her. My name is Arthur, and for 68 years I believed I knew what family was. I believed it was a fortress, built on a foundation of unconditional love and mutual respect. My wife, Clara, was the architect of that fortress. She was its heart, its soul, its quiet, steady pulse. Clara was a school teacher for 45 years. She dedicated her life to shaping young minds, her patience as boundless as her love for children. When she finally retired, her pension wasn't a king's ransom, but it was her security. It was the fruit of a lifetime of labor. It was meant for quiet afternoons on the porch, for little trips to see the grandchildren, for peace of mind in her golden years. It was her rainy day fund, she'd say with a twinkle in her eye, for when the storms of old age come rolling in. Our son Mark was our only child, our miracle. He was a good boy, grew into a man we were proud of. He married Sarah, a woman who was all sharp edges and ambitious energy, so different from our gentle Clara. But we loved her because Mark loved her. They had two beautiful children, Emily and Jake, who were the very light of Clara's life. The trouble began subtly, like a single out-of-tune note in a familiar song. It started with conversations that felt more like interviews. Mark and Sarah would visit, and the talk would invariably turn to money. "Mom, Dad, you're sitting on so much equity in this old house," Mark would say, gesturing around the home we'd lived in for 40 years. "It's a wasted asset." Sarah would nod, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "You could be leveraging that, Arthur. Building real wealth for your grandchildren." Clara would just pat my hand under the table. "This house is our home, dear. It's full of memories. That's wealth enough for us." Then they started on Clara's pension. "It's just sitting in that account, Mom, being eaten away by inflation," Mark would argue, his tone laced with what sounded like genuine concern. "It should be working for you. For all of us." The pressure was constant, a slow, dripping tap on the stone of our resolve. They painted pictures of a sprawling family home with a big backyard for the kids, a place where we could all be together. They spoke of multi-generational living and legacy building. They made our simple, content life sound small, insufficient. The turning point came on a cool autumn evening. Mark came over alone. His shoulders were slumped, his face a mask of despair. This wasn't the confident, ambitious son we knew. This was our little boy, scared and in trouble. "Dad, Mom," he began, his voice thick. We found the perfect house. It's in the best school district for Emily and Jake. It has a mother-in-law suite just for you. It's everything we've ever wanted. But the down payment? It's just out of our reach. We'll lose it." He looked at Clara, his eyes pleading. "Mom, if we could just borrow from your pension, just for the down payment. It's not a gift, it's a loan. We'll pay you back every single cent with interest. I'll sign a contract. Anything. This house, it's for the family, for your grandchildren. I was hesitant. My gut, that old man's instinct, told me to say no. But I looked at Clara. I saw the conflict in her eyes. She saw her son, her only child, in pain. She saw a vision of her grandchildren running in a big, safe backyard. She saw us, growing old not in a quiet, empty house, but surrounded by the noise and love of our family. It was a powerful, intoxicating vision. Mark, Clara said, her voice soft but steady. Are you sure? This is my security. It's all I have. Mom, I swear to you, he said, taking her hand. This is the safest investment you could ever make. It's in bricks and mortar. It's for your grandkids' future, and we will pay you back, I promise you. On my life, I promise. That word, promise. It was the key that unlocked her heart. But Mark handled it all. He was so helpful, so efficient. He said it was easier to just get a power of attorney to make the transfer smooth. Just a formality, Mom, he assured her, to avoid any bureaucratic hassles. Clara, who trusted her son implicitly, signed where he pointed. I will never forget the day the money left her account. $150,000. The sum total of her life's work, of grading papers late into the night, of dealing with difficult parents, of nurturing thousands of young minds. It vanished from her control with the stroke of a pen. For a few months, everything was golden. They bought the big, beautiful house. The mother-in-law suite was indeed lovely, with its own little kitchenette. We moved in, filled with a hopeful, almost giddy anticipation. Clara bloomed. Having her grandchildren running in and out of her room every day was her greatest joy. She baked cookies with Emily, taught Jake how to plant tomatoes in the backyard. She was the heart of the home again, but the first crack appeared soon enough. It started with a comment from Sarah. You know, Clara, the utilities in this big house are just astronomical. Since you're living here now, it's only fair you contribute a little from your pension each month. Clara, wanting to be helpful, agreed. Then it was groceries. Feeding 2 extra people really adds up, Arthur. So we contributed for groceries. Then the loan payments never materialized. When Clara gently broached the subject, Mark's demeanor changed. The grateful son was gone, replaced by a defensive, harried man. Mom, we're stretched thin as it is. The mortgage is huge. The property taxes are a killer. You living here rent-free is a huge help, you know? Consider that your repayment. Rent-free. The words hung in the air, cold and cruel. We were guests in the family home we had helped create. The boundaries of our world began to shrink. Sarah started making comments about Clara's clutter in the common areas. Her favorite armchair was moved to the garage to make room for a more aesthetically pleasing one. We were told to keep to our suite when they had important guests over, as if we were an embarrassment. We were no longer the patriarch and matriarch. We were tenants, inconvenient tenants. The final, soul-crushing blow came on a bright Saturday morning, Clara's 69th birthday. The children had made her cards, and her heart was full. She came out to the kitchen to make herself a cup of tea, humming an old tune. Sarah was at the table, looking over a stack of mail. She didn't look up as Clara entered. Clara, she said, her voice crisp and businesslike. Mark and I have been doing the books. We simply can't sustain this. The costs are too high. We've decided we need to convert your suite into a proper home office for Mark. The market is terrible and he needs a quiet, professional space to work. The humming stopped. The world went silent. Clara stood frozen, her hand halfway to the tea kettle. I don't understand, Sarah. Convert our suite? Where would we go? Sarah finally looked up, and her expression was not unkind, which was somehow worse. It was pitying. "Well, we found a lovely place for you," she said, sliding a glossy brochure across the table. It was for Silver Pines Assisted Living. It was a beautiful brochure. It showed smiling, silver-haired residents playing bingo and doing water aerobics. It looked clean, safe, and utterly devastatingly lonely. "Assisted living?" Clara whispered, the words catching in her throat. "But I don't need assistance. I'm perfectly healthy." "It's just the name, Clara," Sarah said with a dismissive wave. "It's a retirement community. You'll have your own little apartment. There will be people your own age to talk to. Activities. It will be so much better for you than being stuck out here with us. And frankly, it's what we can afford." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She looked from the brochure to Sarah's face, searching for a hint of the daughter-in-law she had welcomed into her family, for the woman whose children she had helped raise. "Sarah," she said, her voice trembling with a pain I had never heard before. "My pension. It's gone. We have nothing left. We can't afford this." A cold, calculating look entered Sarah's eyes. "Well, that's the other thing. We've spoken to a financial advisor. The equity from the sale of your old house. We're going to use it to buy into Silver Pines for you. It's a solid investment. It will cover the entrance fee and several years of care." It was a masterstroke of financial and emotional exploitation. They had used her pension for their down payment. Now they were using the equity from the home she had shared with me for 50 years to fund their own freedom. She didn't scream. She just stood there, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the entire world had just descended upon them. The light in her eyes, the gentle, resilient light that had endured 45 years in a classroom and the loss of her own parents, flickered and went out. She turned and walked slowly back to our suite. She didn't say a word. She just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. I found her there. I put my arms around her, but she was stiff, unresponsive. It was as if her spirit had already left, fleeing the unbearable reality of the betrayal. "We used my mother's pension for a down payment. That was the transaction. What we did next broke her. That was the consequence. They didn't just take her money, they took her home. They took her dignity. They took her role as a grandmother and mother, reducing her to a financial burden that needed to be efficiently managed. They took the foundation of love and trust she had spent a lifetime building and smashed it to dust." We moved into Silver Pines 2 months later. The suite is small, but clean. The people are nice, but they are not family. Clara sits by the window for most of the day, watching the birds. She rarely speaks. She doesn't bake anymore. She doesn't hum. The children visit occasionally, but the visits are strained, filled with a guilt so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mark tries to justify it. "It's for the best, Dad. You're safe here. You don't have to worry about anything." But he's wrong. We have everything to worry about. We worry that the money will run out. We worry about what happens next. But most of all, I worry about the silent, broken woman sitting by the window, whose only crime was loving her son too much and trusting him with her whole heart. The fortress of our family is in ruins, and my Clara, its brave architect, is a ghost haunting its empty halls. So, my dear friends, I tell you this story not for your pity, but as a warning. A warning to hold your boundaries sacred. A warning that love, when mixed with greed and entitlement, can become the most destructive force on earth. A warning to never ever sign away your security, no matter how sweet the promise, no matter who is asking. Because a parent's love may be unconditional, But a child's gratitude, it seems, has a very steep and very final price tag. This story is a heavy one, I know. It sits with me, even now. If it resonated with you, if it made you hold your loved ones a little closer, or think twice about the sacrifices we make for family, then please let me know. That like button, your subscription, your share, it's more than a gesture. It's a promise to keep these conversations going. It's a lifeline that tells us we are not alone in navigating the complicated, beautiful, and sometimes painful ties of family. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your kind hearts. Cherish your family, but cherish your own peace and dignity just as much. Until next time, my dears.